Morning everybody, we're just outside the bridge inn this morning. It's Saturday, September the 14th, and we're going to Acorn. This is the first time I've been out fishing now for 3 weeks, I think, since the Top Kit League final. So really looking forward to this. Acorn's always good, isn't it? 'Cause we always get a few bites. This is the Summer League, the penultimate round of the Summer League. We won't be down here again then until the Winter League. So we'll try and get to a few more venues in between. I wanted to get out a little bit more. My daughter's actually just started university, so the last few weeks have been difficult, to be honest. Lots to do, lots of money to spend, but yeah, so it's all gone very well really. They grow so fast, don't they? So we're just going to go and have a bit of brekkie, then we'll get down to Acorn. Hopefully we'll get a good draw, hoping to be bungo as always. So I'll see you in a bit. Fingers crossed. Got the Martin Raya on 3. He's hoping to beat me off the next peg today for the first time ever. And on peg 1 we got the mighty Glyn. Give us a wave, Glyn. So we're pegged both sides. It's going to be a tough day. So first thing is we'll feed a few maggots down the track. Just about 70-80 mil maggots, white maggots. I like white maggots when there's a bit of colour in the water. I tend to switch to reds later on in the winter when the water starts getting a bit clearer. Not because I think fish can see colour, because I think it's pretty well known fact they can't, but I think in clear water the darker maggot gives a better silhouette, if that makes sense. Sort of red one. I think the white one the opposite way, it can just look that little bit brighter possibly to them, I don't know. So I'd like to put a pole up across, but we simply haven't had time. Unfortunately in this league we only get 1.25 hours. In time you've parked where you've got to park, brought all your kit across onto the island, which is where we are today. I've only had time to put up a feeder for across and 3 rigs, that's it. So it's a feeder across, it's that down the track maggot line, down the edge, and a short maggot line in about 3 foot of water in front of us. So we're just getting a few chucks in at the moment. People each side of me have started short. Martin's had one short as well, and Glenn has had one down the edge to my right. He's on the end peg, peg 1. But by getting those few chucks in there and that little bit of feed, 15 minutes later we've left it for 4 minutes and it's gone round and we've got one. So that's nice. It feels like it's got a bit of weight as well. Try and stay deep. Pick two, though, is going to be quite difficult today. It's not really a peg you particularly want. It's not a bad peg, but it's not. It's probably the worst one on the island. That's the fact of the matter. Pegs 1 to 5 are on the island. 1 in 5 being end pegs. 4 being good because it's next to 5, which is the best peg in the whole of Somerset. and and then we've got peg 1 being an end peg on me right, and generally peg 3 in the middle isn't in, but it is today. So with peg 3 being in, I expect this to be quite difficult. I really don't know if we're going to catch down our edges today. But it's gone a little bit cooler, so how many people are going to catch down their edges anyway? It's hard to say, but some pegs are deeper down the edges than others, and I expect some of them will. But that's a nice fish, isn't it? What a nice fish to have after 3 weeks of off of fishing. First fish back, that's a nice one. Lovely. So we fished the feeder for another 15 minutes and unfortunately nothing. A few knocks and that, but nothing really happening. So I kept chucking it a few more times, put a bit of feed in there, and I've just nipped down to the track, down the middle of the track with some maggots. I've tried topping up with a cab pot of maggots as well. And you probably noticed earlier when I fed the maggots, it was no good down the middle, so we've chucked the feeder back out. But as I was about to say, you probably noticed earlier um, that when we cut in them maggots, we left a bit of pole behind our elbow. That way, when we actually go out to fish, we can either fish on the feed or without adding sections, we can just push that 18 inches that I had behind my elbow forward and fish just past that bait. But it didn't make any difference. So that little rest we gave the feeder has been good, hasn't it? We gave the feeder about quarter of an hour rest, gone back out, first chuck back out, got one. So we primed it, didn't we? We put in that bit of feed and sometimes, and a second one as well. Sometimes it's worth doing that. You know, you've got a line that you've caught on, but you just leave it. Never fish a line completely out. And all you're ever trying to do on these commercials, regardless of snake lakes or anything else really, is just trying to catch on 2 lines. That's what I try and do, catch on 2 lines. If you can catch on 2 lines, alternate between the two, you're always going to be thereabouts, especially if you can do that in the early hours, waiting for that sort of last 2 hours, 90 minutes or an hour on some fisheries dependent, but that's what you're looking for. And our 2 lines today is down the track for anything that swims really: skimmers, perch, tench, odd carp, and a cross on the feeder for carp. But as I say, I think we're going to have our work cut out because all the anglers on the island as well are very good anglers. So we're just finishing. We didn't really have that much time, as I said at the start, so we're just sort of emptying the rest of our maggots into our bait tray. We've actually hooked one there while we were messing about with those. So that's well handy, isn't it? Little rest, chuck back across, and sort of 3 fish on the trot. I think this is the third, isn't it, since we've gone back across. Very handy. Using the ever faithful Free Spirit 9 foot. Absolutely love that rod. Great for small chucks and very soft. Just don't suffer any hook pulls on it really. Popping up that line down the track now. I just felt we left it because we caught 3 fish. We feel quite confident of catching. There you see that bit of pole behind my elbow when I cut that in. Kept that there to push it out if we need it. But as I was saying, yeah, so by looking on that feeder, catching a few fish, I didn't want us to just ignore that line down the middle. And just as well, because that feeder line's just died on me again now. So first bite down the track, and it doesn't feel very big, to be honest. Small fish. You'll count. Apart from that one. So back down the track and still very slow. Just fishing double white maggot over maggot. Really simple. What I like about maggots down the track on sort of silty-ish, most lakes have got a bit of silt on the bottom down there. That's foul hook, that one. Oh, that's even more frustrating really when you know there's fish there and you're fouling them. But yeah, the thing I like with maggot fishing in sort of soft, silty bottoms is when you're putting in live maggots, they disappear in the silt. Now I've mentioned this before, and what happens though is when you get quality fish come along, they'll grub around in that silt and move around over the top of it for longer, because what happens is one sort of pops up out of the silt, if you like, in front of them, and they pick it up, and yeah, it keeps their interest, can keep them in the peg for longer. But the maggots at the moment throughout the country, I don't know what's going on, but there seems to be a shortage, and the maggots I got today are small, to be honest. And that's no complaint to the shop or the bait farm or the dealer who supplied them. It's just what it is across the country, and I'm sure all of you are coming across exactly the same. But the trouble is when you're sort of proper maggot fishing, and when I will be later, I'm hoping to short. Different size maggots mean they think at different rates. And the trouble is with that is you end up kind of making a column of bait, which isn't necessarily what you want, because they can come off the bottom. You want them to all go down the same rate, sink together. Um, there's a lot of immatures in the maggots, and I don't think that's helping in this deep line. But I don't think that's only it, mind. I just think it's tough. I think it's tough conditions wise, pegging wise around me. And the fish are just sitting off it a little bit, aren't they? So it's just one of those. So I think I've decided now that down the track isn't right. So I've binned it. I've binned it off. So I've dedicated myself to just sitting down the edge now. I've had a few chucks across, put a bit more bait in there, and I've just sat just dead still and I wait for a full 10 minutes just to give it a chance. And we've hooked something. That's a half decent carp. That's the first proper fish we've had for, well, quite a while. Over an hour, I'd say. So we tried the right hand side as well. The right hand side actually looks the better side, to be honest. It's got a nice bit of cover. You can't quite see it, but just that shot is a tuffet, and I've cut right back into the tuffet. It looks lovely, but I've not had a sign down there. We've got our second one down the edge now from down that left hand side. I don't know whether it's going to keep up. As I say, it's quite bright and being pegged over side, but I'm thankful for the couple we've had there, you know. I sat there for a long time out of desperation, to be honest. Just couldn't catch down that middle. There's fish across on that feeder line, but are just not committing. But it's the same for people fishing across on poles. I've been watching them and they're not catching over really. So they are being very fickle. A few white maggots down the edge there. And that was 3 white maggots on the hook and a cad pot of ground bait. Cad pot of ground bait with a few maggots in. And then as you see behind catching that second fish, we threw a few maggots in. So it didn't happen again. 20 minutes later, nothing. So I've actually changed tactics a little bit. I've actually tried putting on a lighter rig. So I've put a lighter rig on with 0.14 hook length, grey hydro, and I'm tapping just maggots in now and fishing maggots over it with that lighter rig, strung out rig. And we're also starting to prime that 3-foot line with maggots, as you can see. So I've just swung round while those maggots are sinking down that edge line, because it takes a while from the sink. I've just flicked a few maggots out in front, then we've dropped down the edge over it, but nothing else down the edge. I really thought that was going to sort of be the key, that might catch us something. So time for that 3-foot line. It's been that slow today. There's like a couple of hours left now. We got one. The setup for that is a 4B12 strung out, and I think there's five number 9s on it. 5 number 9s. Not too many shot, but just strung out so the line just falls into the shelf. That 4B12 strung out, 0.14 line, and a sort of strong 18 hook. Nothing really heavy, but not too soft. I can handle anything on this lake with that, given time. If I hook a big fish, it's worth taking your time with. And grey hydro. I just found just recently I get more bites fishing that. When I was fishing heavier, you just can't get any rhythm with it. That's a sensible fish. So at last, a nice run of fish there, wasn't it? On that short maggot line. Really nice fishing that. Getting the old quality one, but they're all fat little stamp fish, aren't they? Real little weight builders. Don't mind them at all. So it's just going a little bit slower, so we didn't want to kill it altogether by catching them. You know, catching to a standstill. So we just nipped down that left-hand edge. And a sure sign that left edge isn't prolific, is it? Got a quality roach, but not what we were looking for. I think this 3 foot deep line is just giving them that little bit more shelter, just gives them that bit of confidence to come and feed, being that bit deeper. Yeah, definitely where we're going to be catching today. I think we've got to nurture this line as much as we can. Rest it when we have to, but hammer it when we can, basically. And some of them are just nuts, aren't they? Some of these smaller fish. It's amazing that. Always amazing me how those bigger ones can sort of wallow and you can net them quicker sometimes. And some of these little ones are just absolute nutcases. Yeah, he's just not giving in, is he? Fat little common. So you can see, as soon as we hook a fish, it's the same principle as when we're fishing meat short. Throw a few maggots straight in behind. Try and get those fish that have just turned away as you've hooked one to just turn back round and come back in. And how you throw the maggots in is quite key as well. You need them to go in quite tight to make that bit of noise. Otherwise, maggots don't really make that much noise when they hit the water. So you need them to be quite tight. And also, the tighter they are, the quicker you can get the bite as well. The less they're spread out, which isn't really easy, as we mentioned earlier. The maggots being of different sizes. And also, we got a couple of number 8 back shot there. Difficult to see because my camera isn't the best. So apologies for that, but we are saving for a new one. All the pennies we make from YouTube. I've also put a little super thanks up on my video now. So for anybody who wants to give like a pound or whatever it is, that'll go towards a new camera. We want a better camera really, and a decent microphone so we can sort of talk on the bank as well, rather than just picking up wind all the time. I really started this YouTube channel, to be honest, with some very limited kit, and I had no idea what I was doing. I've had to sort of learn as I go. So I'm quite proud of the channel really, and I thank you all for sort of watching it. But we'd like to develop it now, make it a bit better, nicer picture for you all. So as I was saying, throwing them maggots in. So how you want to do it really is you've got to sort of hold them between your fingers when you throw them. It sounds a bit silly, but you sort of put put your put your thumb up against your 3 middle fingers and pick them up like that. If you pick them up in your sort of hand to throw it, I can't explain, but a bit like I don't know, like a blooming digger, I suppose. Pick them up like that. That don't really work. You've got to hold them between your fingers and see how tight they went in then. And that's how you want to try and group them. As I say, it's not that easy because the maggots are different sizes today, um, but that's how you want to do it really. Yeah, it's a really nice run of fish there. So what we're hoping to accomplish today is the summer league, and I think I'm sat sort of fourth overall or third overall. I think we're second actually, but it comes down to droppers, and that puts me third or fourth. I don't feel we've drawn particularly well in this league compared to the winter league. I think we definitely drew a little bit better in that. Not out and out flyers or anything, but the spring league. Sorry, not winter league, spring league. But it's. I think they pay the top three in this, but otherwise it's sort of like opens. You get 28 anglers a match, and there's no sections. It's just out of 28 anglers, first gets 1 point, last gets 28 points. It just goes like that. But if I can get sort of top 10 today, it should keep me up there. It should also keep me up there to be in with a chance of qualifying for the final without winning them at one of the qualifiers, because the person with a sort of good aggregate over 10 matches or something gets in. So we'll have to see where that ends up really. I think there's another qualifier which is a chance, but today drawing peg 2 I knew straight away, not being funny, I'm not going to win from here, but I thought we could do well points wise possibly, and so that's what we're looking to achieve. And maggots, back on the subject of maggots and throwing maggots in that sort of maggot line. When the carp feed on maggots, they tend to suck and feed a lot slower, a lot steadier, because it's not like pellets, it's not a rush. They don't move around in the water that fast after them. They can be quite lethargic, and some of the bites can be very, very small. So you do, as you can probably see when I've tried to do a close up with me camera, as poor as it is, I've tried to sort of show you how those little dinks can be sometimes. Sometimes they really are tiny dinks. Some people use very short lines for this. I don't like it. Sometimes they can dink the end of the pole and be gone. I prefer to see the bite and strike and have a bit of line there, but I do use, as I said, 2 number 8s, and I do have those couple of number 8s just a couple of inches above the bristle. So I am right on top of the float really, without having a short line, if that makes sense. at certain times of year when it just starts to go a bit cooler, we've had a little bit of rain, the temperature just drops that little bit, where maggots reign supreme. And I do feel it's one of those days today, without a doubt. You know, a month ago you'd have been throwing pellets on this liner, but maggots now are, you know, with the final just 2 weeks away and one more qualifier next weekend, which I'll try and fish. I'll try and hopefully get in the final. Then we've got one more of this league to go, and that'll be the 3 matches sort of done down here to the Winter League then. It's lovely fishing though, isn't it? Just lovely. Once you get into a rhythm with it, you just don't realise how fast you can catch. We've been catching, not crazy, but I think we've been catching 3 fish every 10 minutes sort of thing, you know. And that's throwing in your maggots, baiting up your hook, flicking the rig out there, letting it settle, you know. So really the hooking and the playing and the landing of the fish have probably been one every 2.5 minutes. You just catch that fast. This is a better fish, this one, so taking a little bit more time with this. Can feel this has got some weight. That's just as well because the line has slowed a little bit. And I think if you look on the water, you can see my shadow. And I think my shadow's casting it over where we're fishing now. I keep thinking about trying to start another line and have a quick plumb up, but there's fish there and I just, you know, want to keep going at them really. Yeah, that's a nice fish. Oh, terrible netting. Sack him. Absolutely woeful netting, wasn't it? Touched him with the net, and you know what happens then. You've got to play him out, haven't you? Because you've touched him with that net, and he just ain't gonna have it now. I should have let him turn and got him head first. Sacked. Oh, and a second time. Dreadful. Schoolboy error. We'll have a third go in a minute, and hopefully he'll go in. Can't rush him now because if we break or pull out, we'd just be gutted. We had those 2 chances at getting him and fluffed it. And mentally, that throws you off your game. Plus, you could tangle your rig and all sorts. So, in that situation, it's a good fish. He's worth sort of 2 or 3 of those ones we've been catching. So, he's worth the extra couple of minutes. And it's only a match kit, this as well. But fishing's so short. I think I've made a mistake. I think I definitely should have put a grey hydro in a interelastic. May do that for the final. Should we get there? Go on the net. Round of applause. Well done. Third time lucky. I'd sack him, wouldn't you? Yeah, as you can see that shadow. See where I flick that rig out now, where that shadow is. That's not ideal, is it? Thinking hindsight now, looking back on the match, I definitely should have swung round to me right to the other side of me keep nets there, plumbed up again and started again. It might not have been as prolific, it might have caught, but it turns out this sort of it really does go quite slow after the last sort of 1 or 2 fish. The last 20 minutes on it, to be honest, were poor. And when you see the results and sort of how close we were, really, yeah, I quite regret that. But I think you've got to come away from matches learning something. You've got to realise that you've not fished the perfect match, because no one ever does, do they? But in hindsight, I think today on peg 2 we've done okay. We secured good points, and stay tuned and you'll see how we got on in a minute. That's one of the rare ones from down the edge. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do stay tuned for the results.